All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to a special edition of the One Hood Power Hour. Khari, you want to go ahead and start us off with your traditional welcome?
Well, welcome to another edition of the 100 Power Hour, a special election eve edition, and edition so special that I will not be in my normal role as co-host. I'm going to be a panelist this evening. But we did just want to start it off how we usually start it off. We're only hours away from the big election, and it's exciting time. And as we get closer to this big election day, we know that the plight of black men and black men as a voting bloc have been discussed a lot, in the days and weeks leading up to the election. And many people think that black men are going to be a very determining electorate, deciding the outcome of this election. So we thought it was very important, and shout out to Miracle for really pulling this together. And this is really her brainchild of pulling together an important discussion with black men in battleground states from all over the country, talking about politics and policy and the issues that are impacting us on a daily basis. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to my esteemed colleague, Miracle Jones, who is going to lead our discussion tonight.
Yes, so welcome everyone. Again, thank you so much for joining us. So, the theory behind this panel is we know, regardless of what happens tomorrow, next week, whatever the election, that our lives and our liberation are not determined by electoral politics. That what's been going on for the past 6 months, even pre-COVID, we already were in Black and African American communities, we're already dealing with so many issues, and a lot of issues that still have not been adequately or correctly addressed. And so we're having a series of conversations about, our communities, what issues, and we're going to be hearing from men from all across, these United States who are active in various forms of liberation, who use their art, their talent, their education, their connections to help keep other Black people safe, who fight for liberation in and outside of politics, and who are pushing us to think better, to think higher, and to think more intersectional. So for this panel, we have Kahlil Darden. Kahlil is the CEO and co-founder of Young Black Motivated Kings and Queens. Welcome, Kahlil. We have, our esteemed political director, Khari Mosley. Khari is a world traveler, world-renowned political director, political consultant, who has done a lot of work and is on the national and local level over the past 2 decades. We have Sean Champagne, who is a civil rights attorney, based currently in Alabama, but barred in Louisiana. Very technical, but want to make sure that that is correctly addressed. And we have Dr. Kortney Ziegler, who is based in California, who is an award-winning artist, entrepreneur, motivational speaker. And so we want to have conversations, and we invite you in the chat to have conversations with us, to talk. But the first question, I will start it off, and whoever wants to take it first can go. What's it like being a Black man in America?
I guess I can start first. So being a young Black male in America, especially being a double minority, being a gay Black man in America, it's hard, right? Because it's like every day is a different day of a fight that we're continuing. Every day is a different battle, from Black men being murdered by police officers to like the stereotypes that are placed on our lives. Especially being like a positive Black role model within America is definitely not the norm, but it's something that should be the norm for Black men. I think that being a Black man in America is often looked at often looked at as thugs, as drug dealers. You know what I mean? And there's not really a positive outlet or a positive light shined on youth or even Black men who are doing amazing work within their communities. And so I think being a Black man in America is definitely one of the hardest things right now, because we're faced with so much, and we really don't have many outlets that we can turn to or be a voice at.
Yeah, I'll jump in. That's a very difficult question, to wrap your head around. I think it's so many, feelings, come to mind when you ask that question. I think, in many ways, this experience of being, a Black man, in America is very, very unique. We have, these examples of exceptionalism and these exceptions, whether it's in academia, in sports and finance, and at the same time, we have these so many examples of folks who haven't been able to overcome poverty, overcome institutional racism, and overcome so for every Obama, there's so many of our brothers that are back, in the community, people that we grew up with, people that, I played Little League with, people that I played basketball with. So it's really interesting, we have such a, particularly like the brothers that are, on this panel tonight, many of us, have been successful in, one arena or other, whether it's the arts, academia, business, politics, we, get to kind of, particularly for us, we get to walk this path where, I've met, people like Joe Biden, I've met, Barack Obama, but at the same time, again, I still have friends, in the penitentiary, or friends, in the cemetery, even so to have like this such a broad range of human experiences that I think a lot of Americans, don't have, because of, the unique, place that we have, within this society of being, in some ways, receiving the adoration that Black celebrities receive, while at the same time continuing to, bear the brunt, of prejudice, of institutional racism and things like that. So in many ways, I feel like I've rambled for a few minutes, and didn't really give an answer, because I really don't, have an answer other than just kind of visceral emotions that you trigger when you ask a question like that.
Yeah, I think bringing up Barack Obama is a very apt thing to talk about, because when you look at Barack Obama, you see somebody who was birthed in a political and social reality that is very similar to a lot of Black men. A single parent household, inner city background. Did work in Chicago. Did work with community organizations, churches, and things like that. That's how he got his start. But the way he was looked at as a political figure in America was, in a way, abstracted away from that reality. He was regarded as this sort of larger than life sort of statesman-like figure who is kind of the proxy for which, people could say that they, had a PhD in the Black experience without actually experiencing it themselves. The big joke in the Jordan Peele movie was, I'd have voted for Obama a third time as a sort of proxy for that sort of clueless,
right,
I get it sort of attitude that, people were trying to get about. And, we have to experience that to a certain extent as Black men, is, there are people who feel like they know us, but they don't really know us. And, they kind of look at us as like a sort of attraction, as opposed to, who we really are. And that's people in a particular cultural, political, economic reality. And, we have to address that now, especially in election season, where we're just regarded essentially as a commodity, as a, a sort of votes to win the election. So, this is a very particular time to be a Black man, to say the least.
First of all, thank you all for including me on this panel. I think this is a very important conversation to have, especially since right now, when we're seeing what everybody just mentioned pretty much is that Black men are kind of being seen as like some kind of strong, significant inciting factor in the upcoming election, but also kind of being positioned as like the one to blame, prematurely in case things don't work out for a certain political party. So that's a very interesting kind of positionality that Black men are experiencing right now. I think to be a Black man in America is such a complex and very difficult to answer question. To echo what the other guys are saying, mainly because it is a lot of emotion. It's a lot of emotion involved with it. And I'm going to out myself right now. I'm a trans man. And so my experience of being a Black man in this country is very different. I guess I kind of like had the experience of being perceived as a woman, a Black woman, and also now being perceived as a Black man. And I think that like my experience of the world and other men like me and our experience of being in the country as Black men, it's a very unique experience, but we sympathize and as well as empathize with cisgender Black men. And really kind of, for me, my eyes have been open in ways that I didn't really understand at first, how Black men are perceived and some ways misunderstood a lot, and not really given the room in some ways to kind of really express themselves or to be heard in ways that are meaningful. And we're seeing it in this election period, which is like blowing my fucking mind. I know we can curse on this. And so I'm really excited for us to really get into like, what does it mean to be a Black man in 2020 during a pandemic and an election. And as some people are saying, the most important election of our lives, which I guess every election is, right? So I'm really kind of looking forward for us to kind of get into deeper of these questions.
So thank you for going right off the bat. So like, how does it feel like to get this blame game that's coming on? Like you're already trying to survive this global pandemic. You're already trying to, take care of your families, and all of a sudden now people want to court your vote, but also want to court you just enough to get like the bare minimum from you. So how is that wrestling with that? Khari, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that's a really interesting question because like one thing that I've been grappling with, is this kind of dualism that's going on where there's, and actually I was listening to NPR about this, how I think in the 2016 campaign, the Trump campaign, broke down the various targets of voters and had a specific category for voters they called deterrents. And these were voters that they were trying to deter from voting. They were folks that they knew, that couldn't, would never come to vote for Trump, but their game plan was to just deter them, from voting at all. And I feel like, that, we're re-experiencing that. I think we have, forces that you talked about that, that some would argue are Johnny come lately that are like, oh, we want to, court your vote. We want to court your vote. And then at the same time, we're still, getting, disinformation from international players as well as from domestic players that, really trying to, continue to, feed the cynicism. And much of the cynicism is valid cynicism, but there's still, kind of unsavory, players, in the political spectrum that will want to take advantage of that cynicism and feed it even more. So that's kind of what I'm seeing in the midst of this is I'm hearing, on one side, my vote is so important, my vote is so important. And then another side, it doesn't matter, nothing matters at all, so that's been, and I feel like, for me, even though I've been in politics, my entire adult life, I see the validity, in people, that don't, have any, trust in the system, have any, emotional, space to invest in the system. I get that, 100,000%. I just think it's just so interesting, particularly how it's played out over the last several weeks, with, Ice Cube and Lil Wayne and, and 50 Cent, also kind of, serving, as proxies. And I guess in many ways, I think it's just another kind of example of, you know, what we talked about earlier, is this kind of dehumanization, you know what I mean? Where it's just like, you know, we're just such simple creatures that if you just, you know, pull out 50 Cent, then all of a sudden, oh, well, that's the eureka moment. 50 Cent is, you know, making this endorsement. And you can make that argument on the other side too, you know, on the Democratic Party. It's like, okay, John Legend comes out, okay, now we know what to do. You know what I mean? As if, like, you know, you really don't see that, you know, in other spaces necessarily. I don't see Matt Damon. I mean, I see them doing politics, but it's not like folks get kind of paraded out as the eureka moment now that like Lil Wayne is standing next to Trump, and then like I feel like there's somebody, you know, in a room, you know, with like 10 white people in a room, like at a board, like, oh, as soon as Lil Wayne comes out, we know as soon as that tweet comes out, like the votes are gonna be coming, you know, and it's just like how disconnected are these people from reality, you know what I mean? And again, it's like, wow, you really kind of just see us as like these 2-dimensional kind of cutouts as opposed to like 3-dimensional human beings.
Yeah, I think
Kahlil,
that
you have one.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Doctor.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of what I'm seeing, like kind of, I think what gets me the most, I wouldn't say frustrated, but trying to be very diplomatic, but the thing that I'm seeing
like this is here. We're here to use it to talk, like have real conversations. Right, we're not here to be diplomatic and like what we want, like these real, like what are the issues? This is the problem. Like people are fed up with like this fakeness that we're getting, but because we are real people, so be your authentic self. You know, we're good.
Miracle. So yeah, I think it's really not okay in the ways that Black men in particular, I think, are being seen as and talked about, not necessarily talked to, but talked about in these really like kind of patronizing and infantilizing, seeing as like traitorous ways. And that's like I think that's a problem. I'm not sure why that has become the center of conversation when, if we think of Black male voters who overwhelmingly still vote Democrat, and like, you know, and even if I saw an article the other day where somebody's like, well, even if all Black men voted for Trump, they wouldn't really affect the swing states, but still it's like patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you just, in the beginning of what you said, even if it's like, it's almost insignificant. So why are the conversations that we're talking about, supposedly they're like a super critical time, we're supposedly like kind of combating fascism, we're dealing with, you know, global protests against police brutality, which Black men are infinitely centered in that. And so like, why are these conversations turning to like Black men are the problem? And I think that like, instead of like maybe celebrities are the problem, because you're very right, like John Legend is like singing on, you know, Democrats, and like what's the clip I saw today with 2 Chainz, like I'm different, and like, you know, it's like, I think there's like weird performances on both sides,
right?
But there's something very toxic about the conversations that are having, and like I said, I personally feel like it's like trying to, if you know, Democrats lose, which I don't think they will tomorrow, but if they do, then it's like Black men who made it happen. Black men who are the ones who are apolitical. Black men are the ones who are undecided voters, and not because they're really thoughtful about the ways that they're like not implicated in this election or not talked about in ways that are like kind of have material returns to our lives, but just because it's like we want to be white men, and that infuriates me. I think that's the most fucked up, disrespectful thing that people are saying ever. I was like, I don't know any Black dude in my life, and I turn 40 years old next month. I don't know any Black dude in my 40 years of life that has said to me, you know, or even gave me the vibe that they want to be a white dude, no matter how problematic their politics are. And that is just like, I'm like, where is this coming from? Where is the data that we're backing up to that? Why are we saying that without actually asking Black men, what are the reasons that some are undecided, or even if they're, you know, voting Republican, like what are those reasons? And so, yeah, I don't want to kind of like just keep on like, but the narrative that's being constructed right now, and just like the kind of shots that really prominent people with, you know, prominent platforms are taking at Black men, like historians and stuff, and professors and things like that. So it's a really wild moment. So that was my ramble.
No, you're
Kahlil,
on
you
point.
or Sean. Kahlil and Sean, you want to jump in?
Yeah, it's there is an extent I think that a lot of um, a lot of the black self narrative is being weaponized, against us. Um, on the one side you have, this sort of attempt to co-opt frustration, legitimate frustration with the Democratic Party into this sort of movement to push towards politics that is overwhelmingly white nationalist, white supremacist, to prop up a man who has been reliant on the support of overt white supremacists, has implicitly supported white supremacy. And then you have on the other side a group of people who does essentially take our votes for granted. I live in a state where white people of both genders overwhelmingly supported Donald Trump, and yet the media focus was constantly on the small percentage of black men who supported Donald Trump. As sort of, there's this sort of the sense of entitlement, that if we don't vote a particular way, or that if we don't support a particular candidate, we've done something wrong. And people, black men, especially in the South, they have all sorts of reasons for voting in national elections in certain ways. I mean, with 50 Cent and Lil Wayne, there's an obvious, class interest involved there. They support Donald Trump because he supports the interests of people who have the kind of economic status that they do. In the South, local politics is very different than national politics. Some people live in areas where Democrats are reliably corrupt and contributing to systemic racism within the state. So, they don't care, who's running in a national election. As long as they have an R next to their name, they're not going to vote for a Democrat. There's the sense in which, we are a sizable minority. We were 25% of the population back in the 1960s when the Civil Rights Act were passed. We're a lot closer to 30 now, and yet still there is this assumption that black people in general, and black men in particular, don't have the kind of power necessary, the kind of political power necessary to affect elections in a way that would make people, candidates, politicians, whomever, pay attention to us. And I think that myth is going to be one of the biggest crippling factors when it comes to, generating a substantive politics that is in our interest. We cannot embrace the continued narrative that we have to continue to compromise because we have no choice, because as an ethnic minority, we don't have any real political power, because that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we voluntarily give up our political power, if we allow people to put us in these boxes, then we're never going to get out. We're going to have to continuously settle. Today it's Donald Trump running against Joe Biden. Tomorrow it might be Tom Cotton running against the ghost of Nathan Forrest Bedford. It's going to continue to slip like that. Until we've decided to, stop fitting into this.
Thank you for that. And a lot of people say, voting doesn't help, or voting isn't like a key or a tool. Kahlil, what do you say to the people like that who are saying like voting isn't going to solve or help any of our problems?
So I would say that if you're going to say voting doesn't matter, I wouldn't be out in the streets protesting, right? Because it doesn't mean shit. Like, it just being like fully transparent. Like, you can be out in the streets, you can scream for justice all you want, but if you're not making your way to the polls to make actual change, that shit doesn't matter. Like, we can protest all we want, but if we're not going to go out and make actual change and vote, even locally, like most people don't even vote local elections because they don't even feel like it matters, right? But at the end of the day, we can't keep fighting and screaming for justice if we're not going to be a part of that actual change. So to say your vote doesn't matter, or you feel like it won't be counted, it's crazy to me. I mean, I couldn't even say I get it, right? Because it's like there are young people like myself who depend on the older generation to vote, who depend on the many, but like our future's at stake. right? And if you're not going to be voting, you're a part of the problem.
Sean, you're our attorney. You're doing like civil rights work. A lot of the issues that people see are like remnants of voter suppression, right? And so, how are people able to build power outside of electoral politics, so that they're able to combat things like voter suppression or the systemic, racism and redlining that's in the communities?
I do have, something of an advantage living in Montgomery, being the birthplace of the civil rights movement, and being steeped in that history. I recognize what the kind of political strategy that got us to this point looks like. And one thing that people really do have to realize is that when we say that voting matters, what we're saying is not that you go to the polls on the first Tuesday in November and then go home, go to brunch or whatever. Voting is one prong of an overall political strategy. Dr. King, when he was the most active, he was one of the big things he was doing was voter registration drives. In addition to civil disobedience, in addition to civil rights litigation, in addition to everything he was doing, because he implicitly understood that things like voter suppression, that things like the disenfranchisement of Black people of all kinds, these were instruments of white supremacy, things that were being used to cripple the political power of Black people, because ever since the slaves had been freed, the one thing that the white supremacist power structure had always feared was giving former slaves political power. And we cannot take that for granted. We, as ridiculous, as much of a circus as the national politics of today seems like, you are not actually accomplishing anything by suggesting that, oh, well, I'm just gonna protest, I'm just gonna do this, I'm just gonna do that. Because what you're doing is acknowledging that the system is broken, but refusing to have a voice in changing it. And that is, however emotionally satisfying it is to sort of, quit and protest, it ultimately weakens your overall political strategy, because you are saying that there is one arena in which we simply cannot speak. We do not have a voice. And, the big election during that time period, which was also called the most momentous election of that age, was Kennedy versus Nixon, right? Nixon was better on civil rights way before Kennedy was. But what Kennedy was somebody who was responsive to the movement, somebody who could be pushed, somebody who would respond to the big leaders, because he understood that if he wanted to stay in office, he had to make sure that the movement was satisfied. And the movement was never going to be satisfied, because that's what political movements do. That's how they operate. But making him afraid of the movement was the most important thing. And the only way that he's going to be afraid of the movement, short of, grabbing our AKs and guillotines, is he depends on us to stay in office.
I think a big thing too is to realize and to know that this shit doesn't stop tomorrow. Fighting for Black lives and Black liberation doesn't stop tomorrow. And so it goes further than going out to the polls and voting. It's still staying in your communities, ensuring that the Black lives are being protected, that Black people are getting liberation. It doesn't stop tomorrow. And I think that's what everybody needs to realize, is that the fight is long. And you got to be prepared for it. But tomorrow is definitely a step to making a change, a progressive change for Black lives.
Yeah, and so a lot of people may not be feeling the presidential politics, but a lot of interesting things happen down ballot races. Khari, for people who are looking at building power outside of politics, what are some ways that they're able to, make changes within their community without running for office? You're muted.
Sorry about that again. Yeah, that's a great question. I'll always talk about, when I do trainings with young organizers and activists, I always talk about, the various arenas of power, and the electoral arena is just one arena of power. There's the legislative, a lobbying arena. There's folks who, spend very little time engaging in electoral campaigns and spend a large amount of time, whether it's from the grassroots level or it's corporations, spending money and engaging around lobbying, and direct advocacy around impacting legislation. That's one arena. Obviously, Sean was talked about, the legal arena. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund for years and years and years used the courts as an arena of power, lawsuits, civil litigation, and things like that. And obviously, as Kahlil was talking about, the direct action piece, going directly to the streets. But like what Sean said is, you really have to have the entire toolbox. And also another piece, is media, through the work that 100 Media does. I was just telling somebody, about the role that the Pittsburgh Courier played, in making the great transformation from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party for African Americans in the 1930s. And that was done, through the media, or as I know Sean knows very well how Black radio was used during the 1950s and 60s as a tool to organize. So it's not just voting; it's creating media institutions. It's getting involved in the courts and civil litigations. It's also going to state capitol and lobbying and finding legislators that will move legislation like Michelle Kenney did in Pennsylvania, to get specific legislation around use of force for police officers. So it's not the either or proposition. It's really a both and proposition. And the more that we are engaged in these various arenas of power, the more that we won't be taken for granted, or we won't get stuck in one particular arena and get lost kind of in that circular like firing squad argument of what does voting matter. And in a vacuum, it doesn't matter as much as one would want us to believe if we just stay in that one particular arena of just voting. I think that's one of the mistakes that we made in 2008. We got Obama elected, and then we fell asleep until the Tea Party came. And not, it wasn't just us, it was also, part of the design of Obama's campaign, as well as to kind of move everything into organizing for America, and which in turn really defunded a ton of youth-led political organizations that started up after Khari lost to Bush, that really built that momentum that made the Obama election possible. And then all those organizations, got defunded because all of the money went into the establishment and the Organizing for America outfit.
And so talking about media, Dr. Kortney, you are a award-winning, you use tech, you use art to share people's stories, to literally push for liberation using like visual arts. So how can people use like their skills and their talents to move beyond electoral politics?
Yeah, I think we saw a lot of it actually happen this year, because like the acceleration of kind of the need for mutual aid projects happening, because of people losing their jobs because of Corona, happening with the global protests, and just kind of like all the other kind of intensity that's been happening in this country this year, that people have been finding ways, which I think is really fucking awesome, finding ways to financially support each other. And the idea of mutual aid has really taken a center stage, which is really awesome. And in my work, I've actually built software that has really been designed to kind of like make mutual aid, but active giving really, really easy. And so seeing that kind of accelerate this year, I think that is one of the most important things that's happening right now. The ways that folks are leveraging social media and liveness in ways that they didn't before. Like I say BC, before Corona. Like this year has really just changed a lot of the landscape of so many things, and the ways of how we can, how we're moving and engaging and telling different stories. And so, yeah, I always want to hype up the mutual aid ideas. I think that I'm actually working on another tech platform that's kind of make this idea of inspired by what everybody's been doing this year by funneling money around in circles, getting people out of jail or paying people's rent, or helping people who are injured at protests here in the United States. and just really kind of seeing how we can like keep that momentum going and really get different kinds of folks engaged. And so that is a super amazing way that folks are doing really awesome things that I just like, I'm super fascinated. And I'm a tech guy. So I'm like, how, you know, what new platforms can we build? I'm also fascinated in how, for example, in Nigeria with the NSARS, kids are using Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies to provide mutual aid for one another. And that is amazing because, again, Corona has really accelerated even the use of money. Like, our country ran out of quarters. A lot of folks didn't want to touch money early on, like in March, April, May. And so a lot of things like the QR code has become really popular again, like touchless ways to send money. And so seeing how people are using cryptocurrency to fight police brutality in Nigeria I'm just like, man, this year is like really fascinating about, again, how mutual aid is like shifting, how money's shifting, and how Black folks in particular are using it in this highly politicized moment in so many different ways. And so those are two ways I think that's really fucking awesome happening right now.
Yeah, and your app is Abolition, right?
Yeah, I made an app where people were able to sign up and link their bank accounts and automatically donate their spare change to getting people out of jail. We raised about $1 million and helped over 2,000 people. We had troubles with Corona, which is why I'm kind of thinking more towards cryptocurrency now. Corona really impacted our app once this country and Canada, which is where we're operating, went into lockdown in March. Most of the spending shifted to online, which was okay, but the online spending was going to Amazon. And I felt as a founder, it was not okay for me to be taking money from people spending on Amazon in the moment that we are fighting against police brutality. And Amazon is, in bed with ICE. And so I made the executive decision to cease operations and kind of reformulate the platform and redesign it for how we're moving forward now. So that's what I'm doing now. But up until March of 2020, we did amazing work. And it was awesome to be a part of something where, again, like this like really simple technology was used for Black liberation and Black freedom.
Perfect. So as we wrap all this first segment, I would like, for each of you to talk about what brings you joy, right? There's a lot of stuff going on in the world, but as Black men, Black men, joy is good. What brings you joy, and any gems that you want to add in, and how people can get in contact with you if they want to support you and your work?
So I'll go first because I have to go for another event. But what I will say is that what brings me joy is helping young people, right? And ensuring that young people are able to have opportunities that I didn't have growing up. And that's the biggest thing that brings me joy, is just to be able to be a blessing in other young people's lives and bring them up in things that I didn't have growing up. 2 gems that I want to drop, because I drop them every time I'm on a panel. So I want to definitely drop this gem. Every young person that's watching, or even that will watch tomorrow, I want you to know that your vote matters, and that we have work to do even after this election. And so if you're looking to get involved with any young people or with any youth organizations that are doing work, YBMKQ is definitely open to you. You guys can visit us at ybmkq.org or reach out to me at Kahlil@onehood.org. And I'm definitely willing and able to help you guys through anything that you guys may need. For every older person, I challenge you to take 3 young people to the polls with you tomorrow and ensure that they're staying there. I promise you guys the wait is worth it. And if you guys need anything at the polls tomorrow, whether that's a ride, whether that's food, anything that you guys need at the polls tomorrow, be sure to reach out to my organization, or I'll even drop my phone number. My phone number is 412-620-8084. If anybody needs anything tomorrow while they're at the polls, or even getting a ride to the polls, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you for that, Kahlil. And as a reminder, Kahlil is a freshman at Clark.
Sophomore.
I'm
a sophomore business administration major with a dual concentration in marketing and management with a minor in poli-sci.
at Clark Atlanta University. It has to go because it has to go spend family time. So thank you, Kahlil, for joining us, and we'll see you next time. But Khari, Sean, and Kortney, do you want to talk about what gives you joy?
Seeing y'all, honestly. We're all different guys coming from different backgrounds, different experiences, and Miracle. But we all have a common goal. We have a lot of hope for the future, and we're all moving in that direction. Y'all are all doing some amazing things, and I look forward to seeing how y'all keep going. After all this, after the dust settles, the work continues. So as long as we keep on and keep looking forward, keep having hope, and that'll make me happy.
I'll answer the question. What brings me joy? Wow, that's a great question. I would have to say that it actually brings me back to pre-pandemic. Me and my wife, serendipitously, now looking back, took a trip out to Oakland, California to see Nas and the Wu-Tang with Too Short. And and anytime I see Nas, Raekwon, and Ghostface do verbal intercourse, that definitely brings me joy. I've seen it twice, and it was kind of wild. I was like February 22nd or 23rd, when all that, when we went to see the concert. And even though we were in the bed and they were talking a little bit about coronavirus and all that, we had no idea how, within a few weeks from that trip, how much the world is going to change. So, yeah, man, like they say, Nas, Ray, and Ghost got the best product on the block. So that's what I'm going to go with. That's what brings me joy.
Awesome. Thanks again for having me and for giving other Black men a space to talk about how we feel and what we're thinking during this election season. What brings me joy is my little dog. I love my dog. She's my best friend. And I think she's been so important to me during this earlier moments of isolation that we experienced this year. So get a dog if you can get a dog. If you're a dog person, get a dog.
Oh, yeah. I got a dog and I love it. I love T'Challa. But I will say, here at One Hood, we were founded because we want to change the perception of Black men in the media. So we're going to be doing this a lot. So all these panels, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be inviting all of our guests back throughout the year. And hopefully when things are back open, we'll have some in-person panels and events with some of the guests you're hearing this evening. So please make sure you follow them and stay in touch. And so Dr. Kortney, thank you so much. Sean, thank you so much. We're going to move on to our second panel and we will follow up with you all later. Okay, I think we are going to, that was cool, right? Not too heavy. We always try to make sure that we bring guests on who have things that they want to share with folks. And we always want to make sure we're having conversations. So if there's questions you want to ask, you can put the questions in the chat. We can actually see them. And we're going to bring on our next panel. And then we have a couple of people in the waiting room. Hey, what's poppin', my friends? My friends, everybody's here. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna introduce our next panel. We have the other half of the Wonder Twins, my twin, Farooq, really he's going to interrupt me, so he's been out. We're preparing for Elections Day tomorrow. So he's been out ripping and running. Y'all know him as our director of operations. Also, Saeed, the kid with the golden arms, right? On streaming on all platforms. We have Marckeith, DeJesus from Atlanta, who is a state Senate candidate. this past year who ran a really awesome ground swell campaign to address issues of concern in the community. And we have joining with us another artist, entrepreneur, actor, writer, extraordinaire, Diesel Slaughter, who is joining us as well from Atlanta, who's been helping people with the hurricanes and trying to get, everything back situated. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. And we just also joining us is Muhibb Dyer, who is from a motivational speaker who has founded organizations to encourage particularly Black youth to see themselves and to support other people in the community and to push back against violence. So welcome, gentlemen. We're so happy and honored that you are with us this evening. Our first question, the most loaded question, you can go whenever you feel moved. What's it like being a Black man in America?
Go ahead.
So like I would say, for me personally, being a Black person in America, I'm not from the United States, so my experience is different. That was loud. My experience as a Black man in the United States of America is different. Coming here in the 90s and having my Blackness kind of means something different to me. My father was a Black Panther, but I kind of grew up with a different understanding of the culture. I think right now, at the base level, what it means to be a Black man is to be a target a lot of the time, like more time whenever I'm a public figure in my city, I run an organization, help run an organization that's at the forefront of social activism. We speak out, very loudly on a lot of issues. So more time than not, it's to be a target, but at the same time, it's to be a champion on my ends. You get me? Where every way I walk, I try to walk with greatness and try to strive for excellence every single day. So, I think there's a duality in it right now. You get me? So being a target, but also being a champion and a voice box for people right now, specifically through this global climate that we're looking at. People are looking to these social justice leaders and activists, people like us, to create some type of awareness, and that's how we're moving right now, innit?
Marckeith, you wanted to say something?
Sure. Thank you all so much for having me. I'm going to change the question just a tad bit, Miracle. You said, what does it mean to be a Black man in America? And I would say what it should mean is for a Black man to be proud of who he is, confident in who he is, and as my brother just stated, not to have a target on your back. Unfortunately, we do have one because we are Black men. And Black men, as well as Black women, honestly, we're the backbone of this country. We built this country, and we continue to build this country. Yet we have not received our just due rewards for building this great country that we call home. What I think of being a Black man is, I look at people in my life, fathers, uncles, cousins, men who have, done extraordinary things in their lives, not just, in school, but in their home life, taking care of their children. Black men oftentimes have this stigma that's placed on them that, they're not good fathers. They are absent, in their children's lives. And that is a complete and utter lie. We love our children. We take care of our children. We fight for our families, and we will continue to do so. So we've got to remove the way that we are demonized as African men.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for that remark. Diesel, Muhibb, either.
Go ahead, good brother.
You want me to speak on the same question?
All right. Well, being a black man in America to me is, truthfully, is what you make of it. Because at the same time, like, I mean, we can be targets, but I feel like with the situation that you put yourself in to be a target is what makes that kind of situation happen. You know what I'm saying? Because I see a lot of people do things and feel like it's good when it's not, and then want to be like, oh, they just did this to him, or they just did this to him. But at the same time, I ain't gonna just say it's justified behind like certain actions that take place. But if you move a little bit different, you can actually like God gave everybody the will. First of all, I'm just say this first and foremost. God gave everybody the will and the decision making to do what they do. So it's up to you as a black man in America to make the choices that you need to make. They can be one correct for your life and keep you smooth out the way, or you can put yourself in positions to, you know what I'm saying, get crushed under the system. But other than that, like, I've been through a number of things myself, and I feel like I'm blessed for those things at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never take my consequences and be like, oh, why this had to happen to me? I take them as that's what I needed to get my mind right. Because at the end of the day, it starts with your thinking process, first of all, as a black man in America. Like, if you know how to think, that's how you know how to move. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people don't know how to think and make irrational decisions and making it seem like, hey, like I can do this and get away with it. Now, you can't do that all the time. You feel me? So, and you know how they got it set up out here. You know, they got all kind of cameras, everything watching you. So you're never alone, even when you are alone. But it's just all up to you, or how you move in America as a black man. That's how I feel. You know what I'm saying? Like, I done been through the worst for real, but I'm glad to say it. You know, I got degrees, all that. You got a lot of stuff. You feel me? This stuff that they don't know about me, so they can't take that. Regardless, you know what I'm saying? Can't nobody take that. So it's all about how you move. You know, you can mess up, but you can make it up.
Thank you for that. Brother Dyer?
Yeah. Being a black man in America is so many different things. It's exhausting, but at the same time, it's beautiful. But let me just deal with the exhausting aspect of it first. It's kind of like, if we think about it, it's the Dr. Charles Drew syndrome, if you will. Because on one hand, Dr. Charles Drew, this great, phenomenal, magnificent black man, discovered blood plasma. He's responsible for blood banks, the phenomenon of blood banks all over this country, right? Now, whether it's myth or whether it's true, they say Dr. Charles Drew was involved in a car accident, and the same blood plasma that he discovered, he was denied, and it cost him his life because he was staying in segregated Jim Crow South. So metaphorically speaking, what I'm trying to get at is that black people, and I believe we're called by God to bring the lifeblood to this country. And what I mean by that is the lifeblood that we bring is through the music, through the arts. We have created these phenomenal movements that are responsible for the moral and the spiritual upliftment and development of this country. Just our sheer resilience, being excellent in accomplishing all that we've accomplished in the face of racism, not in the absence of it, but still at the same time that we bring so much to this country, trying to make it live up to the creed that they espouse, we're denied the blood that we need, if you will, in terms of resources. We're denied the blood in terms of opportunity. We're denied the lifeblood just in terms of recognizing our humanity. And to me, that's the greatest crime of all, because They never acknowledge. They want to celebrate our darkness, sort of like what the brother was speaking about. They want to celebrate, you know, our darkness, but at the same time, they never give us true recognition for the light that is us and that we have brought to this country. You know, where would this country be without us? We are the soul and the spirit of this country. So that's what it means to be Black in America. You know, it's the beautiful ugly for a Black man, I believe.
I like that, the beautiful ugly. And speaking of the beautiful ugly, for Farooq and Diesel, both of you have survived, you know, the criminal justice system, as we like to call it. You know, Farooq, you had to go through, you know, the detention center. Diesel, you just came home this year over serving 6 years for a crime you didn't commit. How is it that you're able to now to use like your pain and fill it into your purpose with your art? You're muted.
Oh yeah. Well, me on the other hand, how I feel about it, you know, I mean, I just perfected my life. I perfected my craft, and I used like the abilities that I really know I had to make a change, and did it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, anybody can go to sleep and have a dream about doing something, and then really doing it, putting forth the effort of doing it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, even when I was in my situation, like I said, you know, I got a GED. You know what I'm saying? I got a lot of different kind of college credits and all that. Like, and just had started mastering, like, just reading different dictionaries, mastering my way with words or whatever. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, that would help me more so in the musical field, because, like, I'm able to talk about a lot of different things and know what I'm talking about. And then on the other hand, like, just speaking in different businesses and establishments, like, I kind of trained myself, even though I was in a rough situation, I trained myself. You know what I'm saying? I never let it, like, just really hold me down and get me down. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you can do anything you set your mind to for any cause that you try to set your mind to do it. But as long as you just put forth the right effort and the good energy and manifest whatever you want, I mean, you can get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't hard. Ain't nothing out here hard to obtain. You know what I'm saying? I let my mind just wander a lot, but at the same time, as long as it's wandering towards the right, like, stuff, good goals, I try to achieve it in the best way. Because I remember time I wasn't thinking like that. You know what I'm saying? Really, prison helped me to think, because you get enough time to sit down there and think. You know what I'm saying? So if you ain't learning nothing from it while you in there, like, what's your purpose? Like, just living anyway. What's your real purpose? What do you really want for yourself on earth? You know what I'm saying? I asked myself that a lot of times, and when I came home, I mean, my Instagram, any social media platform you see me on, it speak for itself. You know what I'm saying? If you see me out in traffic, you see, I mean, hopefully one day your TV, you're going to see what's really going on. Like, acting career, musical career is flourishing right before my eyes. So I just stay home, stay praying, stay out the way. That's how I say. That.
First up, I wanna laud out the man like Diesel, man. Welcome home, bro.
Appreciate it.
Don't know. So for me personally, like, you know, I want to start off with a quote with my brother Dice Raw from the Roots crew. How many niggas go to prison? How many come up Malcolm X? So for me, you know, my path through the, you know, the criminal justice system and all of this, it was an opportunity for me to be very appreciative. Number one, that I am the anomaly where I come from. I'm the exception and not the rule. I had talked to a couple of my comrades and several men who did some real time. You know, when by the time I was 20, 18 of my friends was murdered. So I was able to kind of look at it in a different way. Like, I had survivor's remorse when I turned 30, because I was really one of the only people that I had known from my ends that kind of come out to be where I am right now. And also with that, you know, I took it as an ability that I have to work harder in spite of things. Now, like, you know, I became a public school teacher without going to university. All my charges were dropped. You know, I beat my case through tampered evidence. But that doesn't mean that those stigmas didn't walk around with me. That doesn't mean that there weren't politicians calling me a menace to society and trying to impede my progress. So I had to work so much harder on my ends. And then I became a K through 8 teacher. And then I became, I ended up teaching around the world at the University of Sydney and Wollongong about equity in education. I went to the music industry. I did very well for myself, humbly speaking, but I did it at the expense of a lot of liberties and freedoms that I was forced to, kind of reconcile with from, coming off road. Like, where I come from, it's really and truly just a handful of people to make it out. My story isn't different than anybody else's, really and truly. It's just the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed favor with me and allowed me some gifts to be able to manifest in a different way. You know what I mean? There's been times where I had serious questions like, why am I here? What is my purpose? But when I see these men, when I talk to men that just touch home, when I'm talking to men that still locked down, it's like, yo, listen, we moving out here through levels, powers, and love. You get me? It's levels, power, and love. So the levels that I'm able to move through, whether it's academia, whether it's activism, whether it's, however I got to move, there's power behind it. But I'm also coming with the love of the people who didn't make it and the people who want to see me make it. You get me?
Yeah, that's really good. Now, brother hope dealer, as I see, you started an organization called Flood the Hood, right? Because you're talking about moving all of these different parts. Can you talk about what led you to create the organization and what your goal and what your purpose is to impact the community?
Well, it's a couple of things. First and foremost, me and my partner, Kwabena Anton Nixon, 20 years ago, we started Flood the Hood with Dreams because we used to go to schools, like the brother just so eloquently put. And we would ask all the youth one fundamental question, question that we've all been asked in our life. And that's, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, they'll give us the politically correct answer. They'll raise their hand and say, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a businessman, a businesswoman. I want to own a Fortune 500 company. I want to rule the world. Then one young kid was sitting in the back of the classroom, not paying attention, throwing spitballs. And I look him dead in the eye, say, young man, what you want to be when you grow up? And he'll wave me off. And I say, young man, what you want to be when you grow up? And he'll wave me off. And I say, really, young man, what you want to be when you grow up? And he'll look me dead in the eye like I'm looking you in the eye right now. And excuse my language, he'll say, don't come around here talking about no goddamn dream. Because where we come from, we don't make it past the age of 21. And where I come from, I was walking down the street in the hood and I seen my friend get shot in the head, and the hood told me I better not tell. And where we come from, we ain't seen our daddies one day in our lives. And where we come from, my little sister got molested by my auntie boyfriend. And guess what? She didn't tell nobody. Guess why? They said she was too fast and she deserved it anyway. So we start calling our organization Flood the Hood with Dreams because we believed that every child in Milwaukee, in Chicago, in New York, in Pittsburgh, and all over the East Coast and down South, West Coast, wherever you belong, wherever you stand, they deserve to have a dream too. So that was number one. Number two, my godson, Preston Blackmere, got killed when he was 16 years old. And I had a decision to make. Either I was going to wallow in pain or I was going to turn my pain into purpose. And Preston had a tragic story. His mother didn't come to his funeral because his mother was on drugs, and she found out that he got shot 3 weeks later, and she said so. And his daddy didn't come to his funeral because he never knew his father, right? So I made the little boy a promise. And my promise was I was going to take his obituary t-shirt all around the planet if I could. And I was going to tell his story to inspire others from walking down the same path that he did. So in a nutshell, I just try to be the hope dealer. The one young brother referenced Allah. So in the Holy Quran, it says, that we have a duty, really much to enjoin good and forbid evil. And in many instances, the evil gonna constantly come. We see the evil in form of violence. In Milwaukee this year, we've doubled our homicide rate, but it always has to be a party to go out and enjoying the good. And that's what I'm dedicated to every day, to enjoying in the good.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was really powerful. I just have a quick question. This is open to the entire panel. So one of the things that was touched on a few times in the previous panel related to the upcoming election and elections in general is this cycle in electoral politics in the U.S. where politicians, largely ignore or don't prioritize issues facing the Black community for 3.5 years, and then in that 6 months right leading up to the election, there's a lot of pandering at the surface level, and a lot of treatment of Black people's votes as a commodity that they just need to pander to and capture real quick, and they can kind of go back to putting those issues on the back burner. And so I was just curious how, kind of observing a lot of that pandering from both sides in this election cycle has impacted how you feel about the electoral process in general, or either of the two candidates, and then what you see as being, like the necessary means to apply pressure to politicians to break out of that cycle and, address these issues tangibly and substantially.
I believe that a monolithic Black electorate does not mean uniform Black politics. As Black voters, we don't hold the same views on every single contested issue, but we uniformly have the same view regarding racial equality. What we have to do is start holding these politicians accountable. That is where we have faltered throughout the years. We don't hold them accountable. We get them in office. Sometimes we go back and vote. Sometimes we don't go back and vote. We have to start voting like our life depends on it. And I know that you all have heard this slogan 1,001 times throughout this campaign season, but your life does depend on it. Who you put in office, not just from a presidential standpoint or a Senate or a Congress standpoint, but who you put in office as your sheriff, who you put in office as your councilman, as your mayor. All of that means a lot, and it plays a huge part in how we are protected, how we are viewed, the policies that will impact, whether negatively or positively impact our communities, our Black and Brown communities, and other ethnic groups. I think at the end of the day, the key word is accountability. If we don't start holding these people accountable for the crap that they're saying out on these campaign trails and recalling to them, as the old people in church used to say, you got to call back to God, remind him of the things that he promised to do, remind them of the promises that they made on the campaign trail, and hold them accountable for the things that they're saying.
If I may chime in real quick, all of that. I think, for me specifically, and I have been saying this a lot when I've been asked about voting. I'm an immigrant, I'm a Muslim, I'm Black, and I'm Arab. So these are four things that politicians tend to notoriously look over. I've never felt represented by a politician or any candidate as long as I live. And I actually just voted for the first time a few weeks ago, not because I felt like it was something that was long overdue, but it's another weapon against the fight of white supremacy right now. And I think that, as Black people, as the most consistent voting base in the country, we're constantly not only pandered to, but marginalized also, as if we are some monolithic group of people. Everybody on this panel right here, we can all say, as you said, uniformly, we want Black people to stop being murdered. It doesn't mean all of our politics are the same. Even within the schisms of Black people, whether you Black Christian, Methodist, Baptist, whatever you have, whether you Sunni, Shia, NOI, however, we all have differences. But right now, unilaterally, we're trying to, across the board, trying to get Black people from being killed. So voting for someone, whether it's a local election, a presidential election, whomever is going to allow us the platform to speak about this number one injustice right now. All the other policies can go to the side right now. What we're worried about right now is Black bodies. I just walked through downtown Pittsburgh right now. Virtually all the buildings are boarded up. All the buildings across the United States of America right now are being boarded up because they're fearing the riots for tomorrow. And I guarantee you, they're not fearing riots from white people. They're feeling Black people are going to come and take the streets and burn shit down and mash it up all across the land. But that's not the thing. We're seeing right now these radicalized white supremacist groups that the current president, refused to denounce refuse to denounce, those are the ones who are going to be responsible for the violence. Those are the ones who are going to be responsible for all these things, and watch Black people still catch hell for it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, brother Farooq. That's why it's so important to vote. It's so important to get your voice heard. And I'll use this. If the Black vote was not so powerful, why would they try to suppress it? Why are there so many politicians from a Republican standpoint trying to keep African Americans from getting to the polls to vote? Here in Georgia, we have the signature vote, where your signature has to reflect the exact same from your license. Well, I took my license 20 plus years ago. I can promise you that my signature does not look the same 20 years ago. I'm 42 now. 20 years ago, I was 32. So my signature is not going to look the exact same as it did then. But that's one of their reasons or ways of suppressing the vote. Gerrymandering is another thing. There are so many different areas that politics affects us in our daily life, and voting is one of the main ways that we have to hold on to our democracy, to make those necessary changes that we need in our communities, in our country, in our states. But voting is the way, it is the key. And I remember someone said, why should I vote? What's the purpose of me voting? My vote doesn't matter. They're going to do what they want to do. My question or my rebuttal to that is, why not? Do you know how many people that look like you bled and died, fought in the streets, protested in order for you to just have that right and that ability to go and cast a vote? If your vote was not important, they wouldn't try to steal it away from
you. If I could chime in for a minute, and I agree wholeheartedly with what the brothers just said. I believe it was Dr. Martin Luther King. I think he said once upon a time that voting was the most, or it might have been John Lewis. He said voting was the most lethal, nonviolent weapon that we have. Nonviolent weapon that he had. So that's very significant. I can say that one thing that we must adjust, though, is I think that voting is just the beginning. It's not the end. It's just the start of it all. And I think I was reading something just the other day, and it was just talking about the conditions in the 60s. We're still crying for the same things, many instances that we fought for in the 60s. And the reason for that is that we haven't grown up politically. We haven't grown up politically. Growing up politically is not just about going to the polls and voting for a candidate. I think if we just do that, and like the brother said, we don't possess the ability to hold the candidates accountable, then we will always just be pandered to. Our vote will always just be insignificant. But if we grow up politically and we begin to look at another political party, an independent political party like the ANC in South Africa, who has not lost an election since they've been able to vote in the 1990s. They've held political power. If we look at developing voting blocks, if we look at lobbyist organizations where we can say, okay, our special interest is this, just like the NRA. Our special interest is we want to decline in mass incarceration. Our special interest is we want more resources to go to the United States ghetto as opposed to going to funding police officers all around the country. Our special interest is that instead of putting more money into juvenile incarceration, we want to put that money into the education of our youth. Where here in Milwaukee, it takes $90,000 to incarcerate a youth, but $10,000 to educate one. If we want to begin to shift that money, if that becomes our agenda and we begin to run candidates who support that agenda, then and only then do I really feel we will be a mobilized force. But if we just look at a vote as I just got to show up to the poll on one day and vote in this election, then I think people are just trivialize our power. And to me, to tell you the truth, the only people in this world who allow other people to choose for them is children. Right? You know, a hardworking black man, I'm gonna start with a black woman. A hardworking black woman will never allow another woman to come in her house and pick her furniture. A hardworking black man is not gonna work, no 40 hours a week and then allow another man to go to the car lot and pick the car that he drives, right? So why should we continue to allow the Democratic order or the Republican Party to pick a candidate that represents us? We have to become more sophisticated, more grown up in our politics, begin running our own candidates, and then maybe we will see the change that we need to see.
A word. Moving on back, following up with what you were saying, Diesel, I wanted to ask you a question because you came home this year, like right as like COVID took off, and you used a lot of your social media to document people who politicians really don't cater to, the people who are suffering from various mental health issues, people who are suffering from addiction disorder, and you and your friends in your community are out there feeding people, helping people. What are some of the things that you would like to see politicians or even more local community members do better for the people in your city? You're muted.
Oh, I'm unmuted.
You good now?
Yeah, well, how I feel, I really want like the people that's in my position to actually come together, because in Atlanta, it can be like that one day and it won't be the next day. Like, it's too much hype. You know what I'm saying? So like when people start getting serious and start understanding what's going on around them, like, and start accepting reality for what it is, because I mean, it's too evident. Like if you putting something in somebody's face, that's like putting like this cheeseburger from McDonald's on the billboard. Like, you see it, it's in your face every day, but it's up to you to go buy that burger. You know what I'm saying? To go bite it, to see how real it is. And these people showing you every day like how real life is through every social media platform, really. So the people that I know in the position that I'm in with like these big platforms, these public figures, activists, I would like to see more unity, and like instead of using your platform for negativity, you know what I'm saying, like, or just even amping up just the stuff that they already want to keep going on, the divide and conquer situation, just to keep amping that up from rappers and all that. Like, chill out for a minute and start actually putting people in a position to understand we need to be the voice. You know what I'm saying? We the people. It's in the Declaration of Independence. We the people ourselves need to be the voice. You know what I'm saying? Because like I ain't gonna like agree or disagree with everything the government has to offer, because I just know we just tired of the hidden agendas. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, like, everybody's human. That's how I look at it. Everybody's human. Everybody bleed the same way, got to breathe the same way, got to get conceived the same way. You know what I'm saying? So as humans, I just want everybody to get their mind right and situated and get on one accord with good energy. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of these people energy just off and they just have hidden motives. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'd rather for all the people that's around me to just get together, grab every hood, and really, like, push forward. You know what I'm saying? Just push forward and really be the voice. Like, hands down, but with all kind of way of action, because I feel like the only way of action that you got to choose is a military way of action at the end of the day. So it will have to come to that, because how people do look at it nowadays, is like if you get a lot of people congregating, it's revolution. You know what I'm saying? So I want to look at it one way on the Martin Luther King note, but I agree with a lot of the Malcolm X note. You know what I'm saying? That's all I can say. I want to be peacefully unpeaceful in a way. I ain't trying to say it like bad. I just know how stuff leads. I'm a realist at the end of the day. I just know the reality of the situations and the like the criticalness of a situation when you're trying to push forward on that on lifting us as people. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like we get tear down so much, and it's like when we try to lift it up, it's like you come up with a new way to tear it back down. So you know what I'm saying? So I'm to the point like if we can get past that and start all lifting each other up as a people, first of all, because you got a lot of people still out here ready to emotionally just get in their ways. Well, he said this and she said we got to get past all that, first of all. You know what I'm saying? Then just start pushing forward with like grabbing the real knowledge of what's going on around them. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people be brainwashed, and I just want a lot of the leaders that's out here with a voice to just have the correct voice with politicians.
And so, talking about politicians, like Marckeith, you actually ran for office. What was your motivation to run, and what are you still hoping that other people take from your campaign?
Thank you for that question. For me, it's always been about the people. My campaign slogan was people over politics. And I chose that sitting down at my sofa one day, trying to figure out something that would be authentically me. And when I thought about who I am as a person, I thought about my community. I thought about my family, my needs, my family needs, my employees' needs. That rang so true. People over politics. You oftentimes find too many politicians talking about what the party needs, the needs of the party, what we need to do as a party, but we're not talking about the needs of the people. We're not talking about what we need to do for the communities that we're going to be representing. I ran for the United States Senate here in Georgia in the primary election as a first-time statewide candidate to receive 45,937 votes was a blessing. It was pretty much has not been done before, especially from an African American candidate. But I believe in speaking up. I might not say everything politically correct. I don't believe in being rehearsed. I believe in speaking directly from my heart. I believe in being prepared, but speaking directly from my heart, because people can identify immediately whether or not you are being transparent and honest. And what people are tired of is listening to politicians who are spitting the same thing every single campaign election year, talking about the same thing over and over and over again, and get into office and totally catch amnesia. That's one of the reasons why we have so many people bring up the question, why vote? We're still talking about the same things that we were talking about 10 years ago, which is why I bring this back up. Accountability. We've got to hold these people accountable. So for me, it's all about the people. It's about being that voice for the people, being that bullhorn, as I would like to call it, for the people. What I would hope that they would take away, or they did take away, as a matter of fact, I know they took this away, was me being genuine. Me being a genuine man, really wanting to do the right thing for the people. I love the party. Do I always agree with the Democratic Party? No, I don't. There are some things that I may agree with from the Republican Party. There are some things I'll disagree with from a Republican standpoint. My affiliation with the Democratic Party would never take precedence over the needs and the will of the people. And I think if we get politicians back in that headspace, even putting on horse blinders to see only the needs of the people and not just see the needs of the party, I think we could start shaping this country to be a hell of a lot better than what it is. But we got to put the people first. If we're not listening to people like Brother DeJesus said, he wants people to come out. You got to understand what the people in the hood are going through in order to be able to support them. I can't support, someone. I grew up in the hood. I grew up in the projects, and I'm proud to say that. I said that throughout the campaign. I grew up in the projects. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not ashamed to say it. I love the fact that I grew up in the projects because I know what so many other Black and brown children are still experiencing in the projects. Not having running water, not having heat in the wintertime. I can remember many times my mother would make her famous meal called Winnie stew when we didn't have money to be able to, put food on the table. I understand the needs of those children so uniquely because I went through it. So in order for us to be leaders, we have to understand those who we are trying to lead. And if we don't understand them or attempt to get more knowledge of what it is that they need, then we'll never be able to lead them. We'll never be able to do what is, uniformly best for the people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to say something else. If I could.
Yeah.
I said something quite a bit on the campaign trail. Common sense ain't so common. And I don't know, one time it just came out, it just flowed so easily. And I say it now still to this day that common sense ain't so common, because when you think about common sense, it's something that all of us should share in common. I don't care what color you are, I don't care what gender you are. Common sense should just be common, right? But common sense ain't so common to a lot of these politicians. So for those of you who are in Georgia, you'll see my name again on the ballot real soon. But know this, that I've got common sense to know that we've got to start representing the people in the right way and stop representing the party in a way that reflects the people in a negative light.
Most definitely. So one last question, and again, this is open to the whole panel, and it's one that I think is especially important, given how turbulent this year has been, with the pandemic, with police violence and everything surrounding that. And so, for this question, if any, you could just elaborate or talk about where do you turn to find inspiration and support?
My brothers on this panel, my sisters that walk the same streets, that patrol the same ends. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, music, the thing that's inspiration to me, and I'm gonna keep this, really succinct. Miracle on this panel has given me a lot of words of encouragement, inspiration, and information about a lot of these spaces right now that we're moving in that I just wasn't aware of. But having some uniformity down here with these brothers, a politician, a roadman, and a dope poet, brother that's out here, a real community man. You get me? It's inspirational because as I said at the beginning, Blackness is universal, but experiences aren't. But when we coming through under these levels and we galvanizing like this, it's inspirational because it's like, regardless of who's going to be president, Black folks still got to show up. We still have a life to live. The hood's going to be the hood. The ends is going to be the ends, regardless of who they put in this office on Friday. You get me? So we still got to be out here for each other. And that's the most inspirational thing to me, is like when I come out and I see these people that, we will all inhabit these same skins and inhabit these same spaces. I'd be like, yeah, okay. At least I know if no one else got us, we got us.
Who do I turn to for support? My wife, who's a very, very great support to me. My children, they bring me so much joy. Just seeing, their success and seeing them, navigate their way through these times and still having the ability to, to have a smile on their face. And then God, most definitely, just trying to go in these times, go deeper into my meditation, go deeper into my prayer, go deeper into my spiritual connection. Because one of the things I looked up, this has probably been a year, I've lost been losing people since I was, 12 years old. Was the first time one of my friends got shot. But this year, with COVID-19 compounded with the violence, I had to count. It's been like 17 people that I know and connected with in some way, shape, or form. So if I didn't have a higher power, a higher consciousness, if I couldn't put it in perspective, I would really be lost out here. And then last but not least, like the brother said, just acknowledging the fact that, I think a lot of times we operate in these silos where it's a million different organizations seemingly doing the same thing. And that's okay because there's never going to be a time when we're all together under one leader. That's the Messiah in that sense is not necessarily real and is going to play out in our lives where we all accept the same faith, accept the same walk. It's not going to be uniformity like that. But I've learned, as the great Muhammad Ali said, he wrote the shortest poem on earth. It was me, we. Just those two words, me, we. I've learned to look at my brothers, brother Diesel and brother Marckeith and brother Farooq and Sister Miracle and all of the beautiful people that I meet in my city and across. Every time you do something positive, that's me. And beginning to look at it like that. If the brother is down, in Atlanta, in Georgia, and he's running, that's me. That's me. If the brother's in New Orleans and he's doing his thing, that's me. You know what I mean? And when we begin, because if we don't look at it, this is the trick bag. Every time something negative happens and it's a black person, we feel a sense of shame. Like it's us. Like, damn, they messing up the game. That's us, right? White folks don't necessarily have that same affinity towards each other. If a white man does something white, it's like, that's his crazy ass. He over here doing something white, right? But whoever Lil Wayne got on and Wayne said, he started, oh, that's us. Like, damn, Wayne, that's us. Like, so in the same sense, if I'm going to connect myself to a brother in our failures or a sister in our failures, then I would be foolish not to connect myself to my people when they do something excellent, right? So that gives me a sense of satisfaction, a sense of joy, and a sense of knowing that even if I can't be there, somebody else is there, and we all moving forward towards a unified goal, even though we're not under the same umbrella.
I would immediately say, family. I look to family. Very close. My mother is like the best friend I think any dude could ever have. My mother and I have had a unique bond. There are five of us. I'm the second child, so the oldest boy because I have a brother. Um, I look to them for strength. I look to them for counsel. I look to them for their opinions because their opinions do matter to me, most of them. But I look to my family. And then when I can't really find that sweet spot, I do what my great grandmother taught me to do. I fall on my knees and I pray. And sometimes I have to literally go into my own closet and fall prostrate before my maker and, speak directly to him because he knows me better than I know myself. And I draw that strength. There's something that when you are close to God and you start praying and asking for things, he starts answering real quick. You got to be careful about what you ask for. I'm very specific. I don't pray in generality. I pray specifically. Lord, I want to hit the mega millions because it's $129 million. I ain't saying, Lord, I want to hit the lottery. I'm very specific when I pray. So, I go to my family and I go to my maker.
Yeah, me, Well, you know, I got to go to the Maker, the Most High, first of all, because I mean, without the Most High, how would any of this be? You know what I'm saying? How would we even exist? First of all, then secondly, I'm gonna say the Earth because the Earth plays more so a big role in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like from everything that I do, I'm the type of person like I go to the nature trails. You know what I'm saying? Like I go out by large bodies of water. You know what I'm saying? Because it helps me meditate and subconsciously guide myself at the end of the day. Because if I don't have it within myself, like how can anybody else see it? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like just being oneness with yourself, God, and the earth, like just that spiritually divine right there alone is enough support for me. You know what I'm saying? Because a person can say they support you, but then, you know what I'm saying, abort you right after that. They can support you and abort you. You know what I'm saying? Because just the mixed emotion, the feelings of what's going on out here. But so, and I do gotta support people. You know, I'm gonna say Miracle. I'm gonna say Miracle. Yeah. I mean, I've been knowing her. She a good friend of mine. So, and she like even helped me to be here. You know what I'm saying? At this moment, to even talk with y'all because like she helped me when I was in my situation, guide my mind, and keep me on the right track. And you know, it did it's wonders for me because when I came home, I mean, I stayed down. I've been at the lights way. I've been out of all them folks' way. You know what I'm saying? I ain't been around nothing crazy. I'm handling business. I got my own businesses actually. Like I'm doing my music. I'm doing filmmaking. I done did a lot of stuff with a lot of big people. And like, I mean, it used to be a dream, but like I say, everything started with the dreams on how you execute. You know, I executed at the highest level, manifested it through prayer, you know what I'm saying, with God, and actually just kept rehearsing in my mind, like, that's what I want, and that's what's going on. So, thank you, Miracle.
Yeah, hilarious. But the last question, always leave on a positive note. Now that you've been inspired, what is bringing you joy? Like, what is something that brings you joy?
As I'll go first with this one. The fact that I can wake up in the morning and know who I am and whose I am. I know my surroundings. I know I'm in my right mind. I've got the mobility of my body. I'm blessed because I have a job to go to. I'm blessed because I have a family to come home to. So that brings me joy. Just life in general. I love what Brother Diesel just said about, the nature and the elements and, all of that, the planet, because it does really, we are connected to this planet. We are connected through, water. I'm a Cancer, so I'm a crab, so I'm a water sign. Shout out to all the Cancers out there. No other sign matters. No, I'm just kidding. But no,
Strong Sagittarius over here.
oh God. Look, I got another. Wait a minute. I got 3 siblings that are Sagittarius. So look, you fire. I'm water.
Sagittarius and Cancers. But bring your joy. I don't want to steal your joy.
No, you bring me joy. You bring me joy. The Sagittarius bring me a lot of joy. I love y'all. But yeah, so the fact that I can wake up, go, start my day, know who I am, be able to function throughout the day, life in itself is joy. And I'm grateful for it.
Hey, well, what brings me joy, and let me go ahead and say this. Shout out to the Pisces. Yeah, that. Anyway, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to the Pisces. Well, yeah, anyway, what brings me joy is that the fact that I know overcoming obstacles are possible. You know what I'm saying? That would bring me joy. I'm the type of person I like to go up against all challenges, you know what I'm saying? Because I done been through some of the worstest kind of challenges that could have broke me or made me who I am today. And I'm glad to say I am who I am today. You feel me? Because like subconsciously, sometimes I get judged because through my markings, I got a lot of tattoos and all that, but at the same time, like how they say you can never judge a book by its cover. You know what I'm saying? So when you really find out what's really going on the flip note, then they started accepting it a little bit better. But it brings me joy to know that I can overcome any obstacle. You know what I'm saying? Like just to have that strength and that willpower, and also like how you said, waking up every day. they say every time your heart beat, God telling you He loves you. You know what I'm saying? So that it brings me joy. You know what I'm saying? Because I know where it's really coming from. I know anything that I actually manifest and put myself up against, I got the power of God with me because He tell me He loves me anyway. You know what I'm saying? And I know that's how I know He with me. So that would bring me joy.
Brother Muhibb, why don't you go on, bro?
Well, a couple of things bring me joy. I'll be remiss to say, and I just said it just a few minutes ago, but spending time with my wife and traveling with her and having the opportunity to love. You know what I mean? I think, in this world, it could be very difficult without permitting yourself to love somebody and be loved. And a lot of times black men don't talk about that because that's soft talk. You know what I mean? So, so we don't want to talk about that. But I remember, I'm gonna try to wrap it up as soon as I can. But I remember watching a documentary on Miles Davis, and Miles Davis was a tormented soul. He was abused when he was young, and he became an abuser. And in his life, it was always like he was running from demons. He didn't have any joy, except they said when you listen to his music, it was equivalent to listening to envisioning a lover walking through the park on a beautiful sunny day. So how is it that this man who was tormented in his life, his horn sound like he was channeling lovers walking through the park on a beautiful sunny day? His art allowed him to humanize himself when he couldn't find that love in the world. So I think my art permits me to do that too, because many times the things that I write about is my pain. So I find inspiration in my pain, and I can find joy in my pain in the midst of all the tragedy. One more thing is a student of mine just last week was murdered. 16-year-old boy. He was on track. He was junior this year, on track to becoming Division I basketball player. They say he was walking to take out the trash at his girlfriend's mother's house, and they did a drive-by and killed him. It probably wasn't even intended for him. That type of reality, being exposed to that on a regular basis, can break you. When I went to the funeral, I got up and talked. I didn't even intend on talking, but something moved me. And once I spoke and kind of tried to channel the energies of the youth in there and give them something to think about and uplift them, give them hope, I found joy in that. So long story short, my wife, my children, my art, and just giving myself permission. I think that's important for those of us who work in with people, that we take care of ourselves, self-care, travel, permit yourself to enjoy life. You can work on these issues 24/7, 365 days for the rest of your life and still feel like you don't put a dent in it, right? How much Malcolm X and Martin Luther King feel it's been 50 years after their death, and they made the ultimate sacrifice, and it still seems like sometimes we're not getting anywhere. So permit yourself to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Don't feel guilty. You understand the work will be there. Find joy.
I was gonna make a joke, but I think it's a little heavy now.
No, go ahead, make the joke, please, brother.
I was just gonna say all of your lives would be exponentially more efficient if more Virgos were present in your life. It's a fact.
Yeah, that
Everybody
was a joke.
gang
That
bang.
was a joke.
Sign gang bang.
But no, just to wrap it up, man. Love is finding joy in love. being thankful I could wake up every day at 4 in the morning and go to the gym. You know, that's beautiful. I got my body, that I got my sneaker collection that's been, 200 plus pairs. It's growing. I love that. You get me? That makes me happy, you know. So yeah. I mean, that's it. You get me?
The sneaker and the chocolate cheesecake.
Always chocolate. Chocolate women, chocolate food, chocolate cake, chocolate candy. You get me? Just more chocolate. You get me? At all times.
We were so good. You know what? We were so good. You know, everybody behaved. We are going to wrap up. I thank you all so much for joining us. Whenever you want to come back, I think Marckeith was our first, candidate announcement, on a One Hood program. So I appreciate you letting us, have breaking news. I thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations to you and all your success. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have you all back. Whenever you need One Hood or One Hood Power, just reach out to us. We're here, we're here in service to partnership and to elevate. And to everyone who's watching, thank you so much. Gentlemen, y'all can go ahead and leave the studio or you can stay with us if you would like, either or. For those of you, wow, see, no loyalty, was joking. I'm just I know. I appreciate y'all. But for those of y'all in Pennsylvania, you will see us live in person tomorrow because One Hood will be out at the polls. We'll be doing party pop-ups, bringing you foods, entertainment, PPE, hoodies. We have different food trucks. So we're calling our us along with 1PA, Black Voters Matter, BPEP, and the Working Families Party. We're doing our Love on Election Day. We even have partnered with Joy to the Polls. So we're going to be doing a lot of stuff for everyone else. It is Election Day tomorrow. It seems like it's been a long time to get here. Vote. If you believe in electoral politics, vote if you are registered. If you've already voted, please don't vote again. But we want you out to show up, show out. Please stay safe. We know a lot of us are anxious about what's going to happen tomorrow, about safety and security, but please be safe. Follow up with your own election protection networks, the NAACP, the ACLU. They're out and about. Call them if anything happens. Exercise your right to vote. We'll post. We're gonna be in the Hill. I'll be in the Hill tomorrow. I got McKelvey. We're at a bunch of different sites, so we're gonna be ripping and running all throughout. So we're very excited. Chefs to the Polls is another one of our partners. They're bringing food trucks out, so we're gonna make sure everyone's well fed. It's supposed to be seemingly warm. But we saw what happened on Sunday with that impromptu snowstorm. So I don't know what to tell y'all. So yes. Oh my gosh, Marckeith, we were just standing outside doing this voting rally, and all of a sudden the wind started blowing like over 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Snow, like
we almost lost the tent to the wind. It was not good. Yeah.
Oh wow. This was yesterday?
Yep.
Just on Sunday. And it was supposed to be like 60 degrees and sunny. And just a gray cloud came, and it was just
wow.
Ryan had to hold the tent.
Yeah, almost flew away with the tent. It was not ideal. It was not ideal, but
Wow. Well, we're kind of windy out here. I mean, I think the high today was 62. No, 52. I'm sorry, 52. So it was kind of windy here yesterday and today, and I think tomorrow is going to be. I think our low is like 36 or 37 tomorrow.
Oh
wow. But the high is going to be like maybe 60 something, and then later on in the week it'll go back to the mid 70s. So
yeah, see that's
what we tomorrow morning because I have not cast my vote. I did not do early voting. I will be in that line probably about 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. So. Got to make my voice heard.
Most definitely.
Thank you all so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Miracle, it's so lovely to see you. You look
Thank
so much
you.
like your mom. That is my sweetheart.
Oh, I'll let her know that.
She
I will
is.
let
Oh,
her know
trust me, she
that.
knows. She knows. I've met your brother before.
Okay.
But thank you again. I appreciate you. Ryan, such a pleasure to meet you, my
Yeah,
friend.
absolutely.
You
You as
can
well.
take the sign down in the back that says Steelers. We're a Falcon Nation. But I'm not going to say anything about that.
My condolences on how your team is doing this year.
Wow, wow, Ryan.
I can hear you.
Ryan.
Ryan.
Yeah. It's all right. They'll bounce back one of these years.
He's horrible.
I know. So spite. Wow. You know what, Ryan? It's okay though. It's okay. Because I really want to come in this week
Thank you
during
again.
the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, though. Thank you for joining me.
All right, I'm heading out now.
All right.
Good
Thank you. Good night. You know what, Ryan? It's okay. It hurt a little bit.
Hey, I didn't start it. I'm just saying.
Oh, it was. Sometimes you don't gotta rub salt in the wound. Okay, we understand. You're the only undefeated team right now. We get it. Just because of you, it's fine. It's okay.
We probably won more games than this in all of last season, so I'm gonna gloat a little bit. I gotta rub it in a little bit.
I still want Tomlin to quit during like the playoffs and be like, "Remember when y'all were racist, Pittsburgh? Remember?" And I want him to go and just like retire on the island. But anyways, we're getting ready to head out. We want to thank you all so much for staying with us. Oh my gosh, it was almost 2 hours. We will see you tomorrow at the polls. We have a lot of great events tomorrow. We have what Black Pittsburghians know about voting. I will be one of the co-hosts because Jasiri will be out, making sure people are voting. I'll be taking a midday break, a lunch break, coming to talk to y'all about what Black Pittsburghians about voting with Dina Staney, Lindy McAllister, and Jerry Dickinson. On Wednesday, we got, This Week in White Supremacy. We're gonna hope that, people behave and, just try to be normal, decent, kind people for This Week in White Supremacy. On Thursday, we have actually a jam-packed Thursday, y'all. We are partnering with the World Affairs Council, Repair the World Pittsburgh. We're having a community conversation talking about where do we go from here. After the Tree of Life, this is the 2-year anniversary of that white supremacist massacre, and so we want to talk about like how we got here with white supremacy, but most importantly, where do we go from here in building our communities and our coalitions and moving beyond the pain and loving and supporting one another. Also on Thursday, we'll be joining 1PA for Get Out the Vote, Count Every Vote protection rally. 1PA will be posting that. And one of our previous CEOs, our forever First Lady, Celeste, is having an event at CMU, the Mosaic event. We'll be posting that. We're all going to be talking about using art and the role of art in activism. And then Friday and Saturday, we'll be out supporting people, hoping that we get a decision. And when we get a decision, Ryan and I will be back.
Yeah, always.
A results-oriented One Hood Power Hour. So thank you all so much. Please stay safe. Please find something to practice joy. Love each other, protect each other, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.